Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Zenitsu, and you're listening to the Digi Talks podcast, the show that covers various topics from news to meta developments and everything in between for the fine folks who love the Digimon trading card game. Just as a quick reminder, I do stream this live over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, and it's also uploaded as a YouTube video under the YouTube channel of Zenitsu, on top of being on various podcasting platforms like Spotify for your viewing and listening pleasure. Please feel free to leave a rating, like, follow, subscribe, review, depending on your platform that you're listening on. It really does help support the podcast and the channels. Today, I'm back with my co-host Teddy, and we're going to be talking about Digimon Liberator, our first impressions and overall thoughts on its, early general direction. So before we get into the meta segment, first, Teddy, do you have a question of the week for our audience?
I sure do. Since we're sticking with the whole Liberators theme, I want to go ahead and pop it out there. How do you guys feel about Liberators seeing the very first chapter as of recent? It's very interesting, so I'm interested to see where people are landing on it, because I, for one, love it, but I know I've seen some kind of back and forth, even though I've seen that it's actually been doing very well.
Yeah, I like where it's starting, and it definitely feels very anime, which I guess is a good thing because this is supposed to be the replacement to that. But it so far feels very fun, and I'm enjoying the characters so far that they have introduced. Not only just from a design perspective, but just who they are as characters. We'll probably get more into that later.
Yeah.
But we're a little bit on the behind side when it comes to events, which is fine. So we're going to be talking about last week's Latin, not like this past weekend, but like 2 weekends ago. There was a Latin American online regional. We don't have the results for this weekend stuff yet, but that's okay because we still have something to talk about. So this took place, if I had to put it on a calendar, like what, the weekend of the 20th? Yeah.
The
Uh,
last one, this was
yeah,
the
the weekend
24th,
of
was it not?
April 20th is when this Latin American event took place. Um, it was 6 rounds of Swiss, 128 players. The top 16 archetypes is literally nothing we haven't seen before. Three Mirages, three Numemon, three Leviamon, two Lugamon, two Security Control, one Shine, one Wargreymon, one Devas. As far as the actual top 16 breakdown, uh, as far as who actually won, that goes to Mirage. Second place was Numemon. Third, Shine. Fourth, Lugamon. Fifth, Mirage. Sixth, Leviamon. Seventh, Lugamon. Eighth, Numemon. Ninth, Mirage. 10th, Security Control. 11th, Leviamon. 12th, Leviamon. 13th, Wargreymon. 14th, Devas. 15th, Security Control. And 16th, Numemon. So, yeah, the meta basically kind of seems like it's in a stabilization point, and it's going to start getting to that consolidation phase once people actually come to realize like what's actually the best deck, because I think we had like 30 different decks be able to top so far, which is crazy. It's the highest amount we've seen, but in terms of repeated success, we actually have about 9 decks that are relatively consistent that make up the bulk of the meta.
I mean, I think that's still pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare that to some other card games like One Piece, where they literally have like 2 or 3 decks that are only able to top, and one deck realistically is defining the meta, like you'll have your best deck, but like in One Piece, the best deck is like the best by a very, 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 very unhealthy
Yeah.
margin. And like you look at this type of result, and it's just like, oh, the best deck is not that far off from the second or third best deck. It's leading, but not insanely in the lead.
Yeah, there's a decent tug and pull. It's not just one going off by a country mile.
Right, because the decks that we have seen top the most is Numemon, but in terms of the deck that we've actually seen win the most, and by win I mean get first place, was Mirage. And I think just that level of dynamic where it's just like, yeah, we actually do have a wide and diverse format. Whether some people like it or hate it is whatever. It is what it is. But I definitely think that this is one of the, I guess, wider metas that we've had in a long time.
I was like, if not the widest,
No, it for
just
sure is the widest.
because a lot of decks can compete, which is a good thing. Because then there's no complaints that, oh, I can only play 1, 2 decks. That's not true. There's plenty of decks you can play. Now, whether or not you get them far, that's up to you as the player. But
Yeah,
no,
Sakazuki move over. Numemon is the new king.
yep. Oh, Sakazuki, man.
Yeah, not trying to get too deep into One Piece, but I've been looking at it just as a passive bystander because, I use Eggman events for all of my data, and, uh,
Yeah, they do
One
do a
Piece
lot
is
of One
right up
Piece.
there. And I know that Sakazuki got banned, but I almost feel like looking at the speed of One Piece in terms of like the power creep progression, One Piece is moving way faster than Digimon, which is crazy to me. I'm just like, One Piece already started at a very high bar, and the fact that they are moving at a power progression faster than Digimon is like absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, I mean One Piece, like their band restrictions are so absurdly like when they go in, they hit quite a bit. I mean, for them, it's also a little unfair because when they hit like a leader, that's like the crux of the deck. They hold the linchpin. I guess I would say. So like it's a little unfair. Whereas like for us, it's like we hit a card. It's just a card. Yeah, that card could probably be the best card in the deck, but there's probably a suitable replacement. But like for their leaders, you kind of can't replace the leaders. So or you
Yeah,
have to run something with worse. So it's a little harder um, to do that, but it's it is definitely like alarming how ridiculous the power creep in that game is.
yeah, and Fusion World just started, and I know that's another leader-based game. Um, so we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on that because there's a lot of important things that Fusion World is bringing to the table that could further expand the scope of all Bandai card games. So we're definitely paying attention to the other card games, even though we're not actively playing them.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I closely watch just about content on everything, so I'm in there now. Whether or not how deep I am is a different story, but I'm in most of them.
Yeah, but shifting gears back to Digimon. So
Hmm.
that was our BT15, the latest results that we got. And like we said, Digimon's in a pretty good spot. And it kind of has me a little bit nervous for BT16 because I think BT16 definitely has some potential to consolidate the meta just because of, the natural shifts on what's really, really strong. But we're going to have a more, once we get closer to BT16, we'll have more to actually talk about BT16. But as far as Liberators go, we do have some Liberator like information. Obviously, the first two chapters, technically one, came out. There was a chapter 0 or episode 0 that was the prelogue to the setup on getting you to know who some of the characters are, which is going to be Shoto and Owen, Zenith, and Arisa. So those are the characters that we've seen so far as of episode 0. And we, in episode 1, not trying to spoil anything, we see more of Shoto and Arisa and, the introduction to how the story is going to unravel.
Yeah, it is. It's very exciting, and if you guys haven't, I highly recommend it because I'm enjoying it very much.
Yeah, and they even announced with Liberators that we're also getting a side story basically in the same type of format that we got Digimon Seekers in. So we are getting a Liberators like web novel, and that is going to star, I believe, Yuki and her partner Impmon, and they kind of showed off and teased Itmon's new evolutionary line that looks exactly like Growlmon's. The shocker, she's playing with dark dragons because we have the English translation for her and Itmon. And I think it's going to be a really fun deck. I don't know how that deck is going to actually play out in the end, whether it's going to be a purple discard based deck, a purple mill based deck, or like just what the gimmick of the deck actually is. Because purple usually likes to fill up the trash and use the trash in a couple of different ways. The more common ways is self-sacrifice, mill, and discard. And based on the few dark dragons that we have, it's kind of all over the place as far as what they do. So it'll be interesting to see how she develops as a character, her involvement in the story, and the pacing on how this side story is going to be. Because I hope it's better than Seekers. I loved Seekers, but I waited till the end to read Seekers, and they're still not technically done with Seekers, which is awkward and sad.
Yeah, they definitely dropped the ball in terms of concluding Seekers. This does look promising. I mean, it's a fan favorite Digimon, of course, Impmon, and a newcomer to hopefully, I mean, to the Digimon TCG fan Beamon, which it should be interesting because the two protagonists, Yuki and Psycho, or I guess Winner. I don't even know how you would pronounce that. Sure. Um, so I'm interested. I'm excited. I mean, I'm all for the evolution line that they teased, or I guess we've seen it now for Ibmon, and it looks. I mean,
Yeah,
my
he's like a
edgy
punk rock.
teenage.
Yeah, it's like edgy teenage punk rock kind of vibes.
I dig it so much. Won't spoil stuff like that, but it looks pretty cool. I'm beyond excited.
It's
It
just
it fills my
unfortunate.
teenage heart
Yeah, it's just
with joy.
unfortunate with Fanby. They already said he's not going to have his traditional line, so we're still not going to get Tiger Vespon. And I'm like, oh,
They could just be lying too.
they
I
I
doubt
doubt
they
they are.
will, but they could just be lying, and then we get. Maybe they won't do like the initial line, but then end on Tiger Vespa. I don't know, but I kind of hope we get Tiger Vespa in some way, shape, or form because I do love that Digimon, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
And then as far as Liberator's initial release, it released kind of rough because it was limited to whatever internal platform that they were using. Load times were absolutely horrendous. And it broke so much that they decided to put it on other platforms, which I think should have been a no
Should have
brainer.
been that way.
Like, we already have this, might as well just put it everywhere we can to get as much exposure. And it's all free exposure, too. That's the crazy part. So it took their own website and server to break for them to want to put it on others. And then it does insanely well on other platforms. It reached over 1,000 subscribers on Webtoon Canvas on release day. And then it was the number one comic of the week, both free and paid, in global comics, the other two platforms that they used. So and I think like their main website that they were trying to push to begin with, I think that's still kind of having a rough time. So they're still working on it, but it's at least good there's other platforms we could read it on. I'm definitely not using their main one. I'm using Global
No.
Comics.
I opened it on the main one, and it definitely took a long while to load. I have it loaded now fully, but it took a lot longer than I would have liked. So yeah, I maybe if you're gonna read it, maybe don't read it on the main website. Maybe go to like one of the subsidiary websites
I mean, but
because they work 100 times better.
the fact that there's still just enough traffic on their main site to break it is still kind of like both impressive and sad at the same time. It's just like you think you'd be prepared for this, but at least like it blew their expectations out of the water by that much that like I don't know, maybe they'll actually start treating it with a little bit more respect. I doubt it, but because I
I
think like Liberators puts them in a very good position to try to basically take that Yu-Gi-Oh formula where you have your multimedia branding to unify people's interests. And that's what worked with Pokemon is because like they're the masters of multimedia. You had the card game sets releasing alongside with the video games releasing alongside with the anime, and everything was like really, really close and tight to one another in terms of the themings of everything. And I really hope that Digimon starts moving into that direction, because Yu-Gi-Oh does that as well, where it's just like, yeah, the season of the anime is also the main drive for what's going on in the card game as well and what's being released.
Yeah, I kind of can't see how they wouldn't, but sometimes they do be dropping the ball. So I mean, we can hope for the best. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. And I think like that's usually the big like problem with Bandai is they drastically underestimate themselves and the IPs that they have. And sometimes it's not necessarily to their benefit and it's to their detriment. But as far as the story of Liberators, not to like spoil anything, the protagonist is Shoto, and the duotagonist is Arisa, and basically it's their journey on trying to be the best Digimon player in Liberator. And it's so interesting that, uh, like in chapter 0, it opens up with a match. I think these matches are going to not be very in depth, which I'm okay with. You're not reading it to learn how to play the card game. You're reading it to get the idea on what's going on with the story, and these battles are just the outlet. But it's funny that Shoto, his favorite like professional or competitive player is Owen, and then Arisa loves Zenith. So you kind of have like, oh, that's an interesting choice for who likes who. I would have thought that Shoto likes Zenith and Arisa loves Owen, because Owen's like edgy bad boy in terms of design. And he's just like, oh, I lost. So now I'm going to go off on my journey to be better. And then Zenith is just like cocky brat, where he's just like, oh yeah, I won. It was totally nothing. No brainer. It was easy. So it's interesting seeing like those characters follow, not necessarily emulating the others, but like that's what they're drawn to in terms of who they like and who they're gonna be following.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that is kind of funny that they kind of are opposites. I guess I would say not necessarily opposites, but just from face value and their characters, you would think they would be the opposite. But
Yeah, because
neither here nor there.
Shoto was introduced to us basically as not necessarily a loser, but like he he tries very hard and he's enthusiastic and he's learning, and he's just not by default the best. And I like those kinds of stories because it gives us something to grow. Like I hated Yu-Gi-Oh for a while just because like, oh, Yugi is going to win this duel. I don't even have to know how. I don't have to know what kind of cards he's going to be using. I just know he's going to be winning because he's the protagonist. And that doesn't necessarily, and Shoto definitely does not give those vibes. And I think that's a trend a lot of card game like anime and card game media is moving away from. I know Vanguard, in its anime, the protagonist does end up losing a couple of times, which shows vulnerability, weakness, room for growth, and character development. And I that's good setup, and they're definitely introducing that with how they're setting up the beginning chapters of Liberator.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job of making the characters feel, and not necessarily more real, but I guess that would be what I would say, more real in terms of like it being a card game. Like you're not gonna be the chosen one. I mean, I guess you could, but it's like he's learning the card game and trying to be the best, but he's got to learn it. So it's like I like it a lot. It's interesting and it allows us to grow, watch them grow as characters. So I'm all for it.
I'm definitely all for the reaction shots. Like, I don't know if anyone follows me on social media. I don't know why people would, but because I think I'm not that interesting of a person, but I'm trying my best to be a little bit more on the funny side. And oh man, some of the panels are like some of
They're
the
so
most
good.
meme worthy panels, especially with a tiny bit of editing. I'm just like, oh, I could do something good here.
Yeah, I mean, you had some ones that you posted up in the server in the Facebook that were doing pretty good. That were
Yeah,
pretty
the
fun.
I bricked again, and like some of the reactions to that were like, part of it was like, oh yeah, that's so true, that's so me, and then some people were just like, wait, did he actually brick in the anime or like in the
Yeah, they were
comic?
looking deep.
And I'm just like, no, I said I edited it. I added it. Like because I thought the reaction and the setup was just great and I it just needed one line changed and I changed it. So I'm definitely
I
gonna
thought it was funny.
try. Yeah, I'm
I thought
definitely
they
gonna
were
try
funny.
to do more of the memes out of the reaction shots.
No, they're pretty good. I'm had a few laughs just watching or just reading it and seeing some of the shots because I was like, oh, that is. I could see these people going crazy. Some of these people on the internet going crazy with some of these panels.
Yeah, it's just a shame that we kind of have to wait a little bit for our Liberator set and our Liberator starter decks because we still have BT16 to get through, then EX6 is shortly after that, and then we got BT17, and then after BT17, like all the way in October, I believe, is when we get the Liberator starter decks, and then EX7, which is the Liberator set, which is not really a Liberator set, but we'll pretend like it is anyway.
It's kind of. I mean, it it has stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's mostly there to just support the new starter decks, which is Shoto and Arise. And if anyone's curious, Shoto, he's using a bird deck. It's green. So they already showed and leaked and spoiled some of the mechanics with Vortex and the fact that he's trying to be like aggressive and defensive, kind of like bugs, but not bugs, but they're birds. So
They're Vortex Warriors. Thank you very
yes,
much.
I love the fact that they're actually using Vortex Warriors because
It's long forgotten.
yeah, like literally all we know is that medieval Gallantmon was the founder of the Vortex Warriors, and then we know nothing else.
And
So
nothing ever came from that. We just know that he is the leader.
yeah, so maybe long shot in the dark. They'll bring a new version of medieval Gallant, and maybe he'll be a liberator, and hopefully they fix him to be a vortex warrior so he could try to like play with Shoto's deck a little bit. I think that would be kind of cool. Like almost like they kind of leaked that Digimon are alive. Spoiler in all Digimon media, they're like, wait, Digimon are real? They're actual things that have, intelligence. This is doing nothing different in regards to that. So,
Just spinning it in a different way, but
yeah.
it's for the
It,
most part the same.
but, like, maybe Shoto learns from Medieval Gallant to actually be better. And the reward for that would be him included in his deck. I think that would be cool.
That'd be pretty sick though. Like another green red medieval gallant. That'd be sick. Like directly supports it. That'd be badass.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do with Orise, considering like Shuman's all about puppets, and I we
It's
don't
like
need more.
puppets, but like they're based on like folklore and stuff like that, like
Yeah,
children's
fairy
tales and
tales.
things like that.
So you get
So
like
it's
Shuman,
interesting.
Shushuman, then you get like Little Red Riding Hood and Cinderella as like
Yeah,
the
Little Red
ultimate
Riding Hood with a
mega.
Gatling gun. You know,
Yeah, wearing the big bad wolf for shoes.
just a casual day for Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, I mean, I like all of the
It's
new
awesome. It's pretty
Digimon new
awesome.
characters, and the fact that they keep introducing more just makes me even more excited on the potential because, like, they are
There's so
treating it.
much.
Yeah, there's so much they can do, and they're treating it like the anime. Because unfortunately, the studio is still busy making whatever trash fire that they're making. I don't know how many episodes they're contracted for. It's too long, but they basically are just like, okay, we still got to do something with this. So maybe making a webcomic won't be as expensive as a whole anime, while the anime studio is busy. So it just kind of seemed like, yeah, this was just I don't want to say the lazy way out, but it was just the best way that they can do some multimedia project. Because I would love to see Liberators get like an anime adaptation. I would love it. They did a whole like theme song for it.
And it's pretty good too. So like I hope maybe. I mean, I don't think so because they're already kind of full force in this. But I do hope we get something cool from it, like
Yeah,
media wise.
it's just unfortunate that the start of Liberators, in terms of trying to build up our hype, is like they do such a good job with the announcements, and then the execution is just like so half baked. Because we got the announcement for Liberators like fully at the Nationals event, and then they were giving out Liberator packs, which currently are not legal because almost nobody has the Liberator cards. It was a pack of 6 cards, or it was one card, and you could pull. It was a 1 card pack, and you could pull one of the 6 Liberator like cards, which is Shoto, his rookie and champion, and then Arise and her rookie and her champion. And they're re-releasing the pack in two of the worst ways possible. You have to buy the movie of O2 to get the Liberator pack, which I found to be confusing because I'm like,
Which
okay,
is
wouldn't you want
absurd,
the
by the way.
O2 movie to be with the O2 movie pack? Because that
Mm.
also has really crap distribution as well.
No, but
So
those are getting put somewhere else, though.
Sort of. And then the second wave of these Liberator cards is a limited, like extra limited release for store tournaments. So the new store tournament for May is going to be coming up. Stores already would have had to place their order and get those in so that way they can hold those events and compete and give those prize cards out. And then in the middle of May is when they're just like, yeah, we'll just slide these in and we don't have a whole lot of these. So
Good
these
luck.
cards are, yeah, good luck. And not all stores get store tournament stuff, just like not all stores get Tamer Party stuff, which was
Mine sure
how
don't.
yeah, which was how the O2 cards were re-released, and that re-release did absolutely nothing to try to decrease the or like not decrease. I was gonna say
Increase the
decrease the
population of
the
it.
value, but make it more accessible. There we go. That's the correct term that I should be using.
Yeah.
So the fact that those cards were still hard to get means that they had to find another way to get them to us. And the movie promos at least are going to be coming out in like a tamer box or whatever with 2 cards in the pack, and you get there's 6 total ones, and they're of the Digimon. So at least those are going to be easier to come by. But the way they're releasing these Liberator cards is like absolutely pitiful, and like they should kind of almost be ashamed thinking that this is good enough.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening, but I mean, it is what it is. Like what are we gonna do? We can't. Like we can complain, and that's like the best we can do. Complain about it, and then hope that they do push it to us, which I don't see why they wouldn't. But I don't know. I mean, it's just such a weird situation to be in because it makes zero sense. Like why they make getting these cards so hard. And it's not like they're like broken cards. It's not like they're absolute musts. They do help their prospective decks when they do get the starter decks, but they're not like, oh, we need these cards for those decks. So I don't understand. Well, I guess it's better that they're not like that, but I don't know. I feel like if that was the case, just make them more accessible. Like, why does it hurt to make them more accessible? I don't
Right.
understand.
Like we're finally getting the rest of the survive cards like what, a year later from when we needed them. And I'm just like, really? It took this long to give us the rest of the survive cards? Like why?
God, it took forever to get them, and a lot of places still won't get them.
Yeah, and the funny thing is we're getting what's his name? Pal, which is the promo version, the manga promo version of um God, Pulsemon. Like we're
Yeah,
getting him in a somewhat more accessible way, which I'm like, okay, you can make your promos accessible. I don't know why you choose not to make certain promos inaccessible. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like working from used to working on a TCG, I understand like some of the mentality behind the promo where it's just like, okay, this is going to clearly be a store tournament promo to put people in stores, make them want to go to stores. But the problem is you have to make sure the stores get it, and therein lies the problem with the logic. Because, like we established, depending on the distributor, you might not even have that option in terms of the store being able to get these cards.
And it's like it sucks because like my store does well. Like we get a lot of events, we have a lot of people usually go to the time, but we still don't get the product. Like it's still very hard for our store to get the product and in a timely manner to where it's good, and it sucks. It really does suck.
Yeah, because some of these cards, like, they're pretty decent in terms of, like, just generic support. Like the promo per, Petramon. He just on
Mm-hmm.
play suspended Digimon and then your turn give plus 2,000. Nothing crazy, but like that still could be used because he's still a bird. He is a liberator for his perspective deck when we actually get it. So like it's not like it's an irrelevant card. It's just
Exactly.
unfortunate. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that they're stifling their own growth because they just I don't know if they think these things through. And right now we're in the midst of them spoiling EX7, which EX7 will have the three protagonists so far. We have yet to see the other tamers if there's going to be any other tamers, but we know that obviously the starter deck is going to support Arise and Shoto. Then EX7 is going to support Arise, Shoto, and Yuki.
Yeah. Ipmon, and Yuki.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they end up doing with Yuki because right now with Eismon Scatter Mode being another Dark Dragon that they're making a new version, it definitely seems like they're really pushing Evil Dark Dragon and Evil Dragon. And I think that's kind of cool. They're giving us like this set feels very interesting because they're giving us some really out there stuff because we're getting more Three Musketeers support. We're getting more. Um, God, I'm
Nature
blanking.
spirits. We have the whole nature
Yeah, we
spirits
have the
deck
whole nature
stuff.
spirits thing that we still don't know how that's going to go because it's like spanning three or four different colors and it wants to all be in the same deck. And then we get like metallic and volcanic support. So
Yeah,
that's
literally.
that's getting some new cards. And we don't know if we're getting any Hexablow support because, Ice Suit is a pretty cool ability, and Hexablaumon seems like he would make sense for that, on top of the fact that not really going to spoil a whole lot because it's already shown that
Yeah.
Blukamon is in Liberators. Not saying how he is, but he is. And Blukamon is the rookie form of Hexablow. So maybe they're going to do something with that.
I would love to see a retrain, updated Hexablaumon. And that ice suit stuff is insane. So it's interesting. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. But as far as what Liberator is, it's um, a bi-weekly web novel or web comic, and I think it's a monthly release, or it's also going to be bi-weekly for the side story with Yuki. I don't remember exactly where I read that, but I do know that the web comic is going to be bi-weekly. So we get to look forward for another week on the next chapter. If anyone's actually interested, we could do like a chapter review at the end and kind of just discuss the chapters as they kind of happen as, the episode of the podcast pertains to it. So if anyone's interested, please tell us because I think that would be kind of cool because I would love to talk about the story more in depth, but I know I'm in the minority when it comes to spoilers. I love spoilers. I can't get enough of it. I love ruining things for myself because then it gets me more excited for when I actually see it. But
See, I'm on the same boat for me. I definitely like just seeing stuff. I want to like I don't care about waiting for the most part. Um, but in regards to other people, I care more about that rather than that. For me, you can send me crap and I'm fine. You can spoil me. I'm not gonna throw an aneurysm or a fit. But I do love that we're getting all this stuff, and it's so cool. Like Liberators is such an interesting um, what a piece of media that we're getting and how it pertains to the card game.
I just like the fact that they're acknowledging the card game and the Digimon IP. Now, if they could just take that and put it into various other efforts, not saying we need like a simulator, but a simulator would be nice. Just more Digimon video games that they could just make to pull information from to make new cards out of. Because, we still have barely even reached the surface on how deep the Digimon like iceberg is in terms of the references and various other media that they could even use. And but it's nice that they're jumping right into doing something with the card game because we saw that they're eventually going to be making a deck case. And that's going to be the deck case that's based off of the deck cases that the tamers in Liberators use. And I think that's actually pretty dope. I mean, it looks very basic in terms of a deck box because I've seen like 3D prints of something similar in terms of the style of it. It's just your classic like fold out, like wing spread kind of a deck box. I'm probably describing this absolutely poorly. But it usually has like gears that like open up the deck box from the sides. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And the fact that they're making one is kind of nice. I just hope they're not going to charge us like $30 for it like their garbage playmats. Not that their playmats are garbage. It's just for what they used to sell us playmats for. It was pretty expensive. I'll say that.
Yep, that's to say the least. Yeah. But I mean, I like it. I'm all for it. It looks interesting. It doesn't look bad. Like, I just want to like see the build quality. That's all.
Yeah, because we've
Like,
had
it looks nice,
yeah,
but
we've had various different build qualities. We went from like a God, I was gonna say polyester, but that's we had
definitely
like
not.
a nice thin plastic, the buildable ones, to them
Hmm.
downgrading to paper. So I'm just like, oh, what are what are they gonna do for these? Like, how hard of a plastic is it gonna be? What's the size of it gonna be like? Is it gonna be able to fit single sleeve, double sleeve? Like,
Does it stick when you like close it, open it? Does it get like clogged up when you try to unscrew it to open it? Because it looks like you have to like screw it. Yeah. I like it. There's a lot of things like I questioned them, but I just need to get the product in my hand, I guess, or watch a review or something of that nature.
don't worry, I'll try to professor it. Just because like the professor from Magic the Gathering, he does a whole bunch of product reviews. I could always try copying his script in his format. I already attempted to do that once before with the Heroine set, and like it would be cool them having like Heroine 2.0 where it's the video game and other media female characters because they left some out and people were just like, "Oh, but where's my Rika and or not Rika, um,
Rena.
Rina and Mirai?" And like, I don't know. They clearly
I was
say
like,
this
ask
is
them.
anime.
I was like, ask them. They're the ones that they're the ones that printed it. We have no clue, but it is a little weird. But maybe they're just not wanting to put all the eggs in. But even though they put a good chunk of them, so it just looks weird that some of them were left out or whatever.
Yeah, somebody was
Um,
commenting that Akari was left out, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, does Akari even have a Digivice?
I don't think so.
I don't think she does, which is why she was left out. Like, yes, she is a member of Cross Hearts, but I think their goal was more main characters in the main cast that actually have a partner Digimon and Digivice. And
Yeah,
she kind of doesn't. Like, you could kind of say Cutemon's her partner, but Cutemon's not her partner.
it's more like they she cute mom be following her
Yeah, they exist in the same space.
rather than it being a partner. So I can see why she would not be there. But like Rena, don't quite get what she's not. Unless you're just saying this is only anime and stuff like that.
They clearly marketed and said that this is specifically for anime. Except Venusmon was never showed in the anime, so I'm
Exactly. I
just
was like,
like, okay, I don't know
Venusmon
why.
doesn't exist in the anime.
Yeah, I think
So
Venusmon was just the value ploy because we don't have a whole lot of high rarity tamers. So it's just like, oh, what Digimon do we reasonably use that would make people interested in the product? And Venusmon, obviously, for her plot and character, makes a
of
lot of
course.
sense.
Yeah. And the nice clean floodgate is super super fun. So
Yeah, I mean, Japan's still using her. It's crazy how good she was.
I use her still. On most of my yellow decks.
Yeah.
She's absurd. She's just a free like. No, you don't get to play for one turn.
Yellow's really good at having a lot of those anti-fun cards. I don't know why. I mean, I do, but I don't agree
I was
with
like, I
them.
know exactly why, but
Yeah.
but that's okay. I mean, it's cool. I like the heroine set. I mean, I bought mine too, so
I
um,
bought two, one for me and one for my brother, because I don't necessarily think I need any more than two extra Venusmon. I debated about trying to flip it and sell it, but like I ran into an argument with somebody on the internet about the value of it, and he's just like, no, this Venusmon is going to be more expensive than the alt art that we already have.
I
And
don't think that's true.
it's going to be so worth it for this. And I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, hold up, let me look at some of the examples. Type in, yeah, no, she's probably going to be a mid rarity card. Sorry. And he's just like, no. And I'm just like, but that doesn't make her less, like, it doesn't ruin the value knowing she's going to be mid rarity. Like,
Like, it's still going to be a worthwhile card to pick up. I don't
right, and
understand.
that's what makes the product worthwhile because on top of that we get sleeves and not really a deck box, but like a storage box. So like there's other stuff going into the product, but it was crazy the fact that he was arguing with me over the supposed value of this card, and I'm just like, I have examples of cards behaving where it's just like, yeah,
And
this
it's
is
like,
mid rarity. Like Beelstar is a perfect example. Another one female character that people really love. Two, she has a box alt and a base art, and that was the only other versions of the card. Three, she's high rarity, so she's a secret rare versus a super rare, and the box alt holds a higher value than the Bandai Premium reprint. I wonder why.
so it's just, I mean, I get the ideology, maybe, wanting to justify the purchase. I don't know. I
It's
just
already
like,
justifiable because
like,
the cards are
the,
good.
yeah, they're pretty, and that's the point. They're meant to be just gorgeous cards that you could just now you can use them, of course, but like, it's they're not like something that like most of these cards are not like great. Most of them are pretty
No,
not
I would.
usable at the
So like
moment.
I would have, if I were to have made the set better, I would have done BT1 Mimi because we can never have enough of that card.
Yeah, that card is amazing.
Um, I think having
But
the
the BT
new,
one, that one is not bad. It's
no,
not bad. Like that's definitely more playable than a lot of the other cards. And
yeah, I would have done BT3 Kari, the purple Kari, because I don't know. Call me biased, but I think that card's like actually low key secretly cracked.
I think it's absurdly good, but
I mean,
hence why every security control deck uses it.
yeah,
It's
I'm
absurd.
compared to the other Karis that we have, it just feels like that one would be more impactful in terms of a more playable card.
I no argument there. I think that card is super annoying to play against. It's like super
Well,
annoying to play
not
against.
even just the annoying part. Like we don't have, do we? We don't really have a good alt of that card.
We don't. I think we have what we have like the
The
box
colored
topper.
background,
Yeah,
yeah,
like that
the
box topper
separate
version of
colored
it.
background.
I think that's it. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we literally just have the box topper version, and I think a pre-release, and then
Yeah,
it
the pre-release stamp
was
one because it's a rare.
yeah, and then we have the base art in the separate foil the
Hmm.
other foil, and that's it.
Which none of those really look that great.
Yeah, I mean, that's if they were going for that rendition of Kari, because obviously the correct answer, if they were to use any Kari, is the promo Kari.
Yeah.
Same thing with Yoli. They should have done promo Yoli just to have more ways to have us have accessibility towards those inaccessible cards.
Yeah, it sucks that it's not promo Yoli.
Yeah.
I thought it was, and then I looked at it and I was like, that's not the card I was hoping it was.
And then
But it's okay.
maybe they could have added some more Digimon in to spice it up. I don't know. Instead of having it be like all tamers. Because it did kind of feel weird. Like, oh, I'm literally buying this just for Venusmon because and Lilithmon because everything else I could pretty much just disregard. Not that Merva and Sakuya were bad.
No, most of this is pretty irrelevant, sadly.
Yeah, it's Venusmon's propping up the whole value of the entire product, which I think is like both hilarious and sad at the same time. Because like Magic in their secret layers, they do the same thing where it's just like, yeah, there's one card that pushes the value of the entire set, making the product borderline worthwhile, and then everything else is just garbage on the side.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I hate
basically.
that logic. I hate it. Like, give me something like this doesn't cost you anything extra to change what the card says, and you could have even kept the art the same. It's literally just what the card says, and that's the only difference. And I'm just like, why couldn't you just have picked the better ones, the ones that you know we use?
That will, yeah. So then we have more of a reason to use them because now a lot of these cards are just going to sit in the binder, which isn't, I guess, a bad thing. But like like if you're buying like, for example, like me, we're buying two, so I can have a playset of them. I kind of want to use the cards. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's the whole
uh,
point of the game. You're buying game
like
pieces. You want
I
to
want to
play with the pieces
use.
you get.
I would prefer to use these cards, so it kind of sucks that like 70% of these cards are not really playable, like at the current moment, unless they. No, there's no way because these are old. A lot of these are old cards, so it does kind of suck.
Because I have
But
a sinking suspicion that the deck box that they're doing for Liberators, that's probably going to be a Bandai Premium product. Like, otherwise, like, it depending on the type of material, there's no feasible way for stores to just want to carry that.
yeah, that's no way. That's be too expensive.
So, I mean, they could because like they can make a deal with like Ultra Pro or something and get that in. But Ultra Pro didn't have to change anything with Pokemon. They just here's the image Pokemon provided, slap this on your deck box and call it a day. Um, and Digimon Liberators, the deck box obviously is being special made and designed for the card game with the Liberator look in mind. Now, if
No,
they
that's
don't do
100% going to be a Bandai Premium.
yeah, if they don't do a magnetic memory counter for the centerpiece, that's a missed opportunity. That
That
would
would
be a
be really
huge
that'd be so sucky, man. That would suck.
because like otherwise they could have easily done something like that if it isn't like this is just speculation, but I always just try
Correct.
to like to think of like what Bandai can do better or what they could have done better to improve on their core designs and ideas. Because if we don't tell them, they don't know. And we think that they know, but they don't. Like, I'll be honest, they don't.
They don't, and I mean it's unfortunate, but they only will care if it hurts their pockets. That's every big corporation. So,
Yeah. But I
um,
really hope, like, maybe with like, if this is a Bandai Premium deck box, like, I really hope that they make it as enticing as possible. Give us the Liberator pack in that product. They should have done it with the starter decks, but whatever. I'll take the reprints of the stupid training cards that are borderline mandatory for the game at this point. I'll take those any day of the week at this.
I I will without question or complaint.
Yeah, so hopefully they put like the Liberator packs in there, uh, the other Liberator promo because there is another Japanese Liberator promo that's like really weird. I don't know if it'll actually see any play. It's just a generic searcher. It's kind of like Blue Card, but bad. Is it better? I think it's better than Blue Card.
I do, and by a good margin too.
Yeah, because it looks at the top three, adds a Liberator traded card into your hand, so it's limited to just Liberators. But if you're playing a Liberator deck, everything should have that tag. And then return the rest of the bottom, and then you get to play a Liberator traded card. Doesn't even specify what type of card, so it's either a Tamer or a Digimon with a play cost 3 or less from your hand for free, and the card costs 3. So it just basically lets you search, filter, and play at the same time. I think it's pretty good. And then the security ability activates its main, which could be pretty impactful because that could be a free setup or a free tamer, and all of the rookies are designed with that type of thing in mind, having an on play effect. So I like the idea of it. It's just I hate their promos. I hate how they do promos. I'll always hate how they do promos.
Yeah, unless they do like a large change in the way that they shift the promos, I can't see how they fix their promo problem. Sadly,
Yeah. But
but it's
there's
okay.
a lot that they can do, and I'm just excited that we're getting more Digimon media, to be honest, because Bandai, like, this is something I was kind of like alluding to with you earlier on what we could do for a potential episode, where it's just like a giant what if scenario where it's just like, yeah, what if Bandai actually cared about Digimon and put more time and attention into it? Like, would that have harmed the IP, or would that have made the IP flourish almost as much as Pokemon? I think the answer to that one, like in long and short, kind of just depends on when and how.
It for me, I think it's one of the things where I don't think it's they don't care. It's more so they're looking at what's going to be the most lucrative because clearly they have some intention to do somewhat good by the community. Now, whether or not that people look at it that way, that's all subjective. Some people will look at it as bad. Some people will look at it as good. They're not going to argue those semantics, but it it's it's a it's one of those weird things. It should be an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, Bandai kind of does care, but we already know, and just from anyone who's been following us on the podcast, we've already said like Bandai plays things insanely safe for a business, which to the community's reaction sometimes is at a detriment. And this goes for anything Bandai. They do anything and everything as safe as they possibly can to try to minimize as much risk. And yes, that can hamper their growth, but it allows them to try to have a more sustainable company, which, like, I think it's a very interesting dynamic. And just thinking about how they could have changed things around in terms of their marketing and like what they were trying to do with the IP, that could change the whole outlook on everything, because we could have easily had Bushy Road type scenarios where it's just like canceled game after canceled game. Granted, Digimon did have lots of canceled games and lots of failures, but
I was like, we've
yeah,
had quite a few.
but they were also pretty bad. They weren't good.
They probably weren't going to be the greatest things, so they were definitely logical cancellations. But from a business standpoint, at least, logical cancellations.
Right, but this comes down to like their whole approach to video games too, where it's just like, yeah, they're just also super safe when it comes to their video games. The only thing they're not super safe on when it comes to video games is Dragon Ball and One Piece, and that's because the licensing part of their licensing agreement with those is they literally have to make something, otherwise they lose the right to make some anything. So it's like, oh, we have to churn and burn something out every year. Otherwise, anyone can start doing that, and that's something they don't want.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely probably don't want that, to say the least.
Yeah, but I think with Liberators, we're definitely like between Liberators and Unification, I think we're definitely headed down a really good path. Now, if we could just get an anime to tie everything together, I think that would be that would literally do numbers for Digimon if Liberators already is having a pretty decent impact. Whether that impact turns into sales is something we'll have to end up seeing with more episodes of Liberator and the side story. But I definitely like the setting. I like the initial direction of the story where it's two characters learning and growing and uncovering this overarching mystery. I know that sounds very generic, but I'm trying not to get into spoilers on purpose for the people who want to keep that spoiler free. But I
Yeah,
think Digimon is making the right moves in the right direction, not only just from a card game standpoint, but an IP standpoint.
I wholeheartedly agree. Now, I can see where people would look at it from like the perspective of it being slower than they'd like, but hey, we take baby steps, baby steps in the right direction, and we hope and pray that it gets to where we want it to be. I'm thoroughly excited for where we are going forward into Liberators, BT16, onward. I mean, the Digimon IP has a lot of good things going on.
Yeah, and EX7 is actually the start of Block 3, or no, Block 4?
Four, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the start of Block 4, which means the rest of that block is going to be Liberators focused. Like, in each set going forward, they're going to be sprinkling pieces of Liberator in. They're probably not going to go super overboard because obviously Liberator just started and they kind of can't spoil as much as they can through the card game to try to build anticipation for the web novel and the web comic. But knowing their trend, they're going to be sprinkling Liberators throughout the entire year, and it'll be cool to see everything kind of grow and evolve at the same time, especially with unification to try to put everything on a more course corrected schedule so that way they have more ability to control that type of messaging. So we can kind of see the big pieces falling into place in the grand master plan that might not exist, but I'll pretend like it does, on how to try to make Digimon as successful as possible.
Yeah, I don't think they're stupid. I think there is a plan. Now, whether or not it's the plan we're thinking of is a whole other thing altogether. Uh,
Yeah, but I think this is a pretty good place to stop. There is just a lot that we could go over, and I'm really excited for future episodes. We're nearing the 1 year mark for the rebooted podcast, the formerly Wolfpack podcast to now the Digitalks podcast. And I think that's kind of cool that we've been doing this one for almost a year.
yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy. It's been such a blur. Happened so fast. Whole year already.
Yeah. And I'm excited for all of the future content and conversation to come out of the card game. But I want
I
to thank everyone for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to support the podcast in the various channels by sharing it with others on social media so that way it can spread. And thanks again for making it to the end, and we will see you next time.